Good afternoon and welcome to Purchase Broadcast Studios. I'm your host, Sydney Carver.
And I'm your host, Ricky Marino. Thanks so much for joining us here today.
Beyond the Margins is a club at Purchase College that is spreading the awareness of Black writers, poets, and creatives within the Purchase community. Beyond the Margins is a relatively new club on Purchase College, with the club's first unofficial meeting being in March of 2025. To Beyond the Margins, getting approval from the PSGA to officially meet as a club during the spring semester of 2026. With only 7.25% of the writers' field being Black, Beyond the Margins is aiming to combat this statistic by bringing Black authors into the attention of the general public. Purchase Broadcast Studios correspondent Isaiah Mojica reported this story for us.
Beyond the Margins is a book club at Purchase College, dedicated to highlighting Black authors, poets, and visionaries. Beyond the Margins began March 2025, when Mia Youngs felt as though there was a lack of Black representation in books and authors. During a 2023 study conducted by datausa.io, 78% of writers and authors were white, with only a 7% of authors being Black, highlighting the immense lack of diversity in the field.
Community is so important, and it starts from books. Any book that I had growing up, if it was a Black main character, I related heavily to, and I get lost in the story.
Beyond the Margins' mission is to bring Black authors' work into the spotlight by holding book readings, open mics, different writing sessions, and putting on movie screenings that relate to each month.
Whereas break beats have been the missing link connecting the diasporic community to its drum-woven past.
Beyond the Margins has also been producing newsletters containing book recommendations from the e-board members, quotes, and an event calendar from what the club is going to do for the month.
I just feel like it's necessary for community at Purchase College. A lot of people, including myself, at first feel that Purchase College doesn't really have that much community, that people are to themselves, and we just want to be on the margins to be a safe space and for inclusion, diversity, and just, anyone who loves literature, poetry, anything like that.
I really hope the future of this club leaves a long-lasting impact, and people who might be shy or looking for community have Beyond the Margins to go to. I really hope that it becomes bigger and it kind of fuels a passion for mine, which is reading, which is education, which is making sure that people get the right opportunity to feel represented, to express themselves. And I think with Beyond the Margins, I hope that it stays at Purchase long enough for students to have that impact.
Beyond the Margins is a space to learn about the importance of diversity when it comes to literature. Beyond the Margins meet Wednesdays from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. You can figure out more details for events on their Instagram called Beyond the Margins.
Hundreds of Purchase students went without adequate heating in their dorms this past February after a failure of the school's main boiler. We spoke to students to see how they were getting through this tough time. I reported this story. As Winter Storm Fern hit campus at the end of January, some residents of the old and Commons apartments had no idea what would be in store for them in the coming weeks. When students awoke on February 3rd to no heat or hot water in the residences and academic buildings on campus, President Michael Stiper was quick to move campuses to remote learning for the day and later the rest of the week. As the academic buildings were quickly reopened by the 9th, apartment residents still did not have heat or even an estimation of when it would be fixed.
I actually had to go home and act almost as a commuter for that week. It's just to go home and take a hot shower, because that may sound like I'm being a bit of a baby, but I'm not taking a cold shower for an entire week. It's easier to drive back home to Long Island, take a shower there, and then come back for class than it is to deal with the cold shower. Living here in the Commons, especially without heat for those 2 weeks, was really difficult, especially because it was so cold outside. I'm originally from Florida, so I love my heat, and to have it freezing cold is just impossible to live with. Their solution was to give us a very tiny space heater that could barely heat up one room. And in the Commons, there's 2 rooms and then a main living area. So you kind of had to select which 2 dorm mates got the heater for the night. And, whenever you were in the living area, you had to move it back and forth. And it was more of a hassle than it was worth. And
I mean, I think we literally had like 2 weeks of problems with heat and hot water, and even if they got the hot water back, like 2 days later, it would be gone. They wouldn't fix it long term. It took them like a month to long term fix that. One time is one thing, but for that to happen over and over again, I don't really quite think that that's appropriate considering the amount of money that students here, like myself, pay to attend here. You know, I think that we should definitely be promised hot water, heat as well, despite me being more okay with there not being heat.
Finally, on February 11th, residential coordinators sent out an update saying that our facilities team is in the process of transitioning the old and the commons from the temporary boiler system back to the main boiler, claiming that the switch would be necessary to ensure long-term reliability and improve service. While residents were finally able to get their heating hot water back a whole week after the boilers went down, some of the affected residents thought that the compensation provided by the school, a check between $90 and $290 per student, was not good enough for what they went through.
I think $200 it's better than nothing. It's definitely considerate. However, I think with the amount that our tuition costs and what we're paying for, I think maybe they could have given a little more considering just how much it costs to live here. $200 in the grand scheme of like a $15,000 tuition isn't really all that helpful.
While there hasn't been any more heat disruption since February, returning students are anxious to see what the upcoming winter will bring, and if the school's newly renovated boiler system can hold up to it.
From April 7th to 14th, candidates for the UPD Chief of Police gave presentations to the campus community to assess their fit for Purchase College. The search was made known via email and welcomed people to attend and inform themselves about each candidate. The presentations contained their experience and plans for the college if chosen. Alyssa Richards filed this report.
In the Humanities Lecture Hall on April 10th, Samantha Cabrera gave her presentation to Purchase faculty and students alike. Her presentation consisted of policies she'd introduce when chief, and plans for each quarter she'd like to tackle. Cabrera stood out amongst the candidates, as she was the only woman.
You know, a lot of the other candidates are like, you know, these old-ass white dudes. So if there was anyone that I'd want as a police chief is some, a woman police chief who, you know, was stationed in freaking Brownsville, you know what I'm saying?
During Cabrera's presentation, she said, "You don't need to arrest everybody who breaks the law."
It'll only, if someone gets arrested for smoking a joint or, you know, something like that, or then it just provides more of a reason for someone to hate the police. And instead of having an open conversation about it, or, you know, basically just being like, I see that, I'm not gonna, you know, do anything about it, but I know, you know, you can't do that here, or something like that.
Given the fact that UPD has been in tensions with students and faculty since the mass arrest made during the encampment of 2024, this is a unique perspective to bring to the table. Stephen Udis gave his presentation on April 14th in the Humanities Lecture Hall. His presentation focused on his experience as a police officer across New York State, and that he's a neighbor to Purchase because he's nearby and has a son that attends the college.
Mostly I want somebody who will communicate and be transparent with students, who will show their face and become familiar with the community, someone who can understand our culture as, you know, a small liberal arts college, and who's willing to listen and you know, treat our community as a college campus and not the streets of a New York borough.
There have been tensions between the Purchase community and UPD because of the arrest made back in 2024. As the college is under new presidency, allowing students and faculty to see their new potential chief of police is an inclusive way of making sure everyone's voices are heard.
We're at a sort of precarious time still. There's so much going on politically nationwide, and that, you know, can affect our campuses locally with ICE, things like that. And just 2 years ago, we of course had the encampment on May 2nd, where many students were arrested, as well as some faculty. And so students who were there are still here. I was a sophomore at the time, and now I'm a senior. So we still remember that, we still feel that, and while campus leadership has changed, I'm grateful for our new president, We never got really an apology or even anything close to that before the previous president retired or before the previous chief of police stepped down. So it still feels a bit like an open wound, and we have not been able to fully rebuild that trust back with UPD and the student body.
At the end of the presentations, both candidates did a Q&A session with audience members. Announcing the candidates for the potential chief of police is a good way to connect UPD with students and faculty, creating a good relationship between both.
As artificial intelligence continues to reshape creative industries, some artists are choosing to push back by leaning into tradition. At the SUNY Purchase printmaking studio, the process is slow, deliberate, and entirely human. Purchase Broadcast Studios correspondent Amelia Mariel filed this report.
Within the past year, the use of generative artificial intelligence has risen by 10%, reaching 54.6% of users, and is continuing to grow according to the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. Generative AI uses machine learning to create content from text to music and even artwork by analyzing pre-existing human-made material. Artists are facing pressures to adapt their work to avoid losing their careers. However, here at the SUNY Purchase printmaking studio, students are choosing a process done entirely by hand.
Printmaking specifically, it's very involved with like both traditional hand-drawn art as well as very digital art. So I think that the printmaking community in general has been very concerned about how that might impact how print as well as art in general will be affected. Obviously there's this like big skew between people who are in favor of or against AI, but I think that with a lot of the people, especially here at SUNY Purchase in the print department, I would say generally we're more against AI, and I think that motivates us in a way where, because AI has made things so much easier, so much quicker, with printmaking it's such a long, tedious process where you can spend so much labor and have like such a great reward because of that, that I think a lot of us take a lot of pride in that labor that we're able to do.
The push for traditional methods comes as the debates around AI-generated artwork continue to grow. Earlier this year, California's Comic-Con banned AI-generated artwork from its artist alley, according to 404. This marked a significant move by a major creative event to limit the presence of AI in spaces typically reserved for human artists. The decision reflects concerns across the industry about originality and the role of technology in creative work.
What I appreciate about printmaking is that most of it cannot be done with AI. There's, this is a method of art that cannot be made, that is impenetrable to AI. So I feel kind of safe doing it. I feel safe here. I don't have to worry about people making like AI slop fake art. I just am so strongly against AI and the use of it. I think that it takes away from actual art and artistry and craft, and I feel like printmaking is like the actual like polar opposite of AI, like on these creative scales. So I think that's why I'm so drawn to it, because I like intricacy, I like tediousness, I like detail, and that's just something AI could never do. I feel motivated by the fact that printmaking feels like such an antithesis to AI-generated art and writing and everything, and it allows me the opportunity to put my own ideas in a physical medium in a way that is, real, and every piece I make, I've touched and I've gone, like there's a part of me in it. It's just something, there's like an intimacy and a personality that AI could never attain. People always say, oh, they use AI because they can do things quicker or it's more convenient. But to me, the process of struggling, the process of making something and failing and putting your effort into it, that's the reward to me.
As AI tools become more common in artistic work, individual creatives are pushing back as they continue to focus on traditional methods. These artists maintain a process that is entirely human despite the changes around them.
Students dedicated months to planning and rehearsing for Purchase's 6th Aphrodisiac, an event held every April in the Stude. Attendance at the Aphrodisiac was high this year, with many students coming out to support their peers. Purchase broadcast correspondent Holly Hamilton filed this report.
Aphrodisiac is a 2-day performance show celebrating the rise of Black talent and excellence. Students of all majors, class years, and Black ancestries have an opportunity to showcase their talent, whether that is through singing, rapping, or dancing. The setlist opened with student performers and concluded with the student headliner. Aphrodisiac extends beyond performance, using art to uplift Black stories that are persistently erased. It is essential that all students are exposed to these stories so that they remain aware of both social and cultural and also historical realities.
I think it's so important that we continue to tell stories of truth and honor integrity, especially when it comes to Black stories. The climate that we live in now, Black stories are constantly being erased day by day or attempting to be erased. And I think sometimes we run out of people who are ambitious enough to keep telling stories of truth and integrity.
It was so much joy to just be in the room with my fellow peers and just perform and do what I love to do, which ultimately brung a lot of joy and happiness and just excitement to the room.
Aphrodisiac also presents students with an opportunity to promote their songs and gain visibility within the campus community. Additionally, performers bring stories to life, offering students new insight while still delivering an exciting and enjoyable show. Through music and performance, Aphrodisiac delivers a powerful message and creates a lasting impact within the Purchase community.
Free your mind, free your spirit, and having a mind of your own, and live in the fact that life is what you make it. And while sometimes life may be really difficult, we have the power to wake up and choose to see life a little different. So I just want people to be aware of that and reclaim their power and their humanity.
Thanks for tuning in to Purchase Broadcast Studios. We'll be back after this short break.
Thanks for staying with us here at Purchase Broadcast Studios. Let's get back to our stories. On April 18th in North Salem, New York, more than 20 volunteers came together at Dig Farms to support the Westchester community by helping grow fresh, local food for those who need it most. Through the Capitol Theater's hashtag The Cap Cares program, volunteers give their time to community-driven causes in exchange for tickets to upcoming events, turning service into a shared experience that gives back in more ways than one. It was a hands-on morning in the fields, planting, prepping, and doing the work that helps get healthy food onto local tables. Here's a look at what I captured. The Capitol Theater runs the hashtag The Cap Cares volunteer rewards program, engaging music fans to make a real difference in their communities. In 2026, the Capitol Theater has outlined numerous volunteer opportunities that support local nonprofit organizations making a positive impact across the Westchester County region. As a thank you, volunteers can earn free tickets to see world-class concerts and events. I spent a day with the hashtag The Cap Cares volunteers and visited Dig Farm in North Salem, New York, for a hands-on morning getting produce into the ground for the table. The Dig Farm mission is to reconnect the community with the natural good of the farm in Westchester County, New York, and beyond. On the farm, volunteers learn regenerative and permaculture techniques through such opportunities. I spoke with Allison Turkin, the founder of Dig Farm.
I am Allison Turkin, and we are here at the beautiful Dig Farm in North Salem, New York. Just had an amazing day here with the Capitol Theater volunteers, Cap Cares. We had everybody on hand helping to get some plants into the ground today to help us to help the community in Westchester to bring fresh local produce to the community, but also to our kitchen and cooking programs, where we cook meals with our fresh produce and then deliver those back to the community. We've had a ton of volunteers here today, so it's great because people can learn about how to grow food themselves. You know, we're lucky to be living in Westchester County, but certain people are luckier than others, and certain people, you know, benefit from the food that we grow and the community that we build. So I'm really proud of that, and today was just a spectacular example of how amazing the local food community here is in Westchester, and having great volunteers come out and support our causes so that we can continue to support our neighbors in need.
Food insecurity in Westchester County is a significant crisis, with approximately 1 in 3 households at risk of hunger. Despite the county's overall wealth, high living costs, inflation, and stagnant wages mean nearly 40% of households struggle to afford basic necessities, driving high demand at local food pantries. Since launching in 2021, hashtag The Cap Cares has mobilized over 850 volunteers, contributing close to 2,000 hours of service across 63 events, benefiting 24 different local nonprofits in our communities. This initiative sparks inspiration, whether it be encouraging those who wouldn't normally volunteer to do so, or pushing people to go the extra mile. One such person who's done so is Caitlin Sheehan, an outdoor educator and volunteer I met while at Dig Farm.
I found Dig Farm when I was following the Capitol Theater on Instagram and saw the Cap Cares volunteer group here. And I saw that it was right in North Salem, which is my backyard. So I started coming here and I met Allison. After the first day that I was here, I went home and I told my husband that we needed to build our own garden, which has now become huge at my own house. And since then, I started actually working at this farm as well. I teach the children's program here, and I run the children's garden in the back. When I started coming here, it was right after COVID. I had just had my 3rd baby, so I was feeling kind of lonely. We had all been inside, and I was a brand new mom. And since then, this place has really become my home. The people here are super supportive, and they really have become a very close community.
At Dig Farm, that sense of connection is clear. Every seed planted and every bed prepared is part of a larger effort to fight food insecurity and support neighbors across Westchester County. Through programs like hashtag The Cap Cares, volunteers aren't just earning tickets, they're helping grow a stronger, healthier community, one harvest at a time.
Ever since Donald Trump began a second presidency term on January 20th, 2025, there's been a series of No Kings protests across the United States. These protests continue to be held in opposition to Trump's second-term policies. More specifically, in Mamaroneck, a No Kings protest is held every Saturday. Purchase correspondent Lindsay Martinez has the story for us.
Every Saturday at Harbor Island Park in Mamaroneck, from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., a protest is held by the corner entrance. Multiple people gather with signs or t-shirts spreading their voice against the current Trump administration. I was able to interview Laura, the individual who started the protest, by simply arriving to the corner with only one other friend, holding signs and raising their voices, before eventually more individuals joined, causing the weekly gathering to continue.
But we know that together we have the numbers to feel comfortable to remind people you have the freedom right now, and if you don't stand up for it, you could lose that, and that would be terrible. The reason for actually beginning the protest was a concern for the immigrants here in our whole area. They give us so much. You know, I teach, and the kids I teach who have come from immigrant families work so hard. They are the hardest working kids because they've seen their parents work hard. We got out here for immigrants because they can't stand up and speak for themselves because it's dangerous. Imagine that. Just innocent people who work hard. Immigrants made and make America great. So that is a year and a half ago-ish why we really started with them, to be a voice for people who had no voice, you know, shine your light on somebody who's in the darkness, I guess. So we're hoping that we're making a difference and helping our immigrant neighbors to feel comfortable here, to know that we support them. But we hope that people will catch on, they'll join us. It's been getting bigger and bigger, the protests. So the No Kings Days and things like that just draw huge, tremendous crowds. So a lot of these people haven't protested since the 1970s, and they're out here in wheelchairs, in walkers. If they can do it, you can do it.
After a year, the protest continues to grow and encourages more people to join every Saturday. Laura mentions that it's important to maintain a peaceful environment by having a live DJ and making sure not to engage in fights, but rather have respectful debates with those who disagree with their stance.
We love coming here. We get the energy from other people, and I hope we're giving it back. We love the honking. We love just meeting new people because, you know, it's almost like we found new friends, new family in this community. We're all united because we love our country so much. That's how much we care. And yeah, we get middle fingers and we get people yelling at us, and honestly, we don't care. We say we love you, we move on. And we get so much more positive out of it than the haters. The haters are nothing to us.
As Donald Trump continues in office, these protests continues to be seen not just in Mamaroneck, but across the country. It's clear that these protests are meant to be a safe space for people to lift their voices and find others who share the same ideas. Or at least find others who are willing to debate and learn what the opposition believes.
With the state of domestic and international affairs since the start of this current administration, many individuals are feeling powerless to do anything to combat what is going on. The current administration is reaching record levels of unpopularity amongst the populace, and many are looking for a way to fuel their frustrations into something positive and unifying. This has led to the creation of many now famous protests such as the No Kings protest that have happened a few times within the past year. In the wake of these, other smaller grassroots groups have begun to follow their lead and bring people together. Purchase Broadcast Studios correspondent Tommy Fernara has the story for us.
Every Saturday in the small town of Mount Kisco, New York, a group of residents gather outside the village hall and demonstrate their right to protest and organize. What started initially as one man's frustration over Elon Musk has evolved into a weekly ritual for the masses. People travel from towns over to take part in this festive gathering. Signs objecting to a litany of issues can be seen: the American and Israeli war with Iran, the Epstein files, and the general way in which the sitting president has conducted himself over both terms. The purpose of these meetings is to show others of similar viewpoints that they are not alone in their thinking. While New York is an exceptionally blue state, the vast majority of that blueness is focused directly in New York City itself. Even only a short 40-minute train ride north of the city yields a much different demographic, one these protesters look to stand in opposition of.
It's a grassroots thing. It's organic. I mean, I stood out in front of the Tesla dealership back in February every week, and then people started to join me. And my sign simply said, principles over profit. That's all. Very simple, very basic. And people started joining me, and we're here today. So we have about between 100 and 150 every week. Sometimes we get many more. When one of the murders happened in Minnesota, we had 700 people the next day. So it varies. I think we're just so angry and pissed off, and that's the reason I stood outside for a year and a half ago. I was just so angry yelling at the TV set, and that wasn't working. So I came out in the street and protested. And other people felt the same way, and that's why they're all here.
These protests are not met without resistance, though. The removal of free parking in town on Saturdays, coupled with an increase in meter costs, has been a top-down effort to allegedly slow down this group, while counter-protesters will hurl foul language and symbols at the group.
No, they just drive by and give us the finger. So basically, I'm one of the organizers of the protest, just to protest the weekly horrors of Trump and his administration. I didn't start until college, and I'm turning 65, so that's been a long time. A lot of Planned Parenthood. I'm a huge Planned Parenthood supporter, so a lot of that.
In spite of the attempts to tamp down efforts to organize, groups like these will continue to be an oasis of free speech, bringing like-minded people together and letting those upset with the current administration but too afraid to speak out know that they are not alone. If you are interested in joining these groups, you can do so by showing up at either the Mount Kisco Village Hall from 2 to 3 p.m. every Saturday or in front of the New Hope Community SHS Division in Pleasantville from 3 to 3:45 on Saturdays as well.
For many residents of Purchase, they're no strangers to massive storms in the early winter months, especially up in Westchester County. What students were expecting were malfunctions with the heating system that occurred at the beginning of February. These malfunctions, combined with having followed a massive snowstorm in the dead of winter, caused some reasonable concern towards dormitory residents about the reliability of their campus. Purchase correspondent Philip Shapiro was sent on the scene to investigate.
A few weeks into the spring 2026 semester, at the tail end of January and beginning of February, a boiler malfunctioned at Purchase, causing the heating system to not work in the extremely cold temperatures. These heating problems affected a large majority of buildings across campus, including most of the academic buildings as well as the residential ones, causing all classes to go remote for the week.
My apartment specifically, has a bad, already has, a bad, hot water situation where like even if it's on the cold side, like it will still be like really hot. If it's on the hot side, it's just like extremely hot. So when it first happened, I wasn't like that surprised. I just like kind of turned on the cold side.
It isn't the greatest look. Luckily, upon request from RAs, students had access to space heaters if needed. But it still caused some outrage from those affected, as shown on social media sites such as YCAC and the Purchase Parent Facebook page.
So like that was because like of the cold temperatures and like which made the boiler break. And like it is just like we just need more funding to build strong infrastructure so like pipes don't burst and shit and like things just don't go awry at the slightest malfunction, you know.
One person we talked to said that classes going remote for the whole week affected them the most. Almost all of their classes this semester have some element that is only possible through in-person means, stunting the original semester plan that the professor had. A week had passed and the heat had finally come back on. However, on Super Bowl Sunday, all apartments in the Commons experienced issues with the hot water, where it was similarly temporarily shut off, yet only till the end of the day.
Like it was like periods of when it would get hot. So whenever like it was too hot, I would just like turn it off and wait for it to like cool down and like see if it's still hot again. Yeah. Or I would just like turn it on the cold side and that would like make it less hot.
At this point in time, the heat no longer needs to be on due to the warmer weather, but it still makes people wonder how truly reliable are the facilities we as students pay thousands of dollars for. This is Philip Shapiro, Purchase Broadcast News.
Thanks so much for joining us here at Purchase Broadcast Studios. I've been your host, Sydney Carver.
And I've been your host, Ricky Marino. Special thanks to our reporters and crew, Tommy Fringara, Lindsay Martinez, Isaiah Mojica, Philip Shapiro, Jacob Haming, Alyssa Richards, Natalia Matos, Amelia Mario, and Holly Hamilton. See you again next time here at Purchase Broadcast Studios.